The Bears are self-immolating. The Minnesota Vikings haven't looked good in a month, and Jared Goff apparently can't stop throwing to the wrong team. The time is now for the Green Bay Packers to make their move in the NFC North.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And this show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. This episode brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50. I don't want to undersell it. $50 when you play just $5. The Green Bay Packers did not play on Sunday, and as a result, probably had the best weekend in the NFC North. Caleb Williams, they lost to the Patriots, to a quarterback they could have taken. Caleb has not looked like the savior, not looked like the guy who was supposedly a generational prospect that came into what a lot of people thought was the best situation a number one overall pick quarterback had ever come into. For more on that, our friend Lauren Cox is on Locked On Sports today and offered a little bit of insight. Go check that out. The Vikings haven't looked good in a month. They're 2-2 over their last 4 games. They just beat Mac Jones and the Jaguars. Yes, I said Mac Jones and the Jaguars. 12-7. Barely beat Mac Jones and the Jaguars. And before that, barely beat Joe Flacco and the Colts. Unimpressive in each of their last 2 wins, and that is coming off 2 consecutive losses. Now, the Lions game, they played a great game. The Lions beat them, but they didn't look very good against the Rams. And then in wins have not looked good the last 2 weeks. They are not playing like the buzzsaw we saw at the beginning of the season. And then what we saw on Sunday night should have come with some sort of parental advisory. It was a disgusting display of football. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the turnover-worthy play rate stuff and interceptions and dive into this topic with Jordan Love because it's something that we've talked a lot about. But the Lions have been a team all year, going back to last year and even the year before. Their whole mantra was, we're not going to beat ourselves. And when you looked at Packers-Lions last weekend, you saw a team that very much beat itself and another team who didn't. But Sunday night is a good reminder. The Lions are not some flawless team. And they are not so well constructed, so talented, even with the addition of Zadarius Smith, that there's just nothing a team like Green Bay can do. I felt that way about some of those 49er teams with Green Bay. Not the 2021 team, but that 2019 Packers team just did not have a shot against the 49ers. This is not that Lions team. They are not that. And again, it is a reminder that it was the Packers who beat themselves. And this is not an excuse. If anything, it's the opposite. It is an additional criticism. That is to say, the Packers, in addition to not making the plays that the Lions did in the key moments, also did a slew of things that hurt their team that had nothing to do with the Detroit Lions. 4 third down drops, for example. Those are the things where it's not the defense playing great. It's not, oh, this is just a bad matchup. It's not, we had injuries. It's none of those things. It is you. It's pre-snap penalties. It's you. And yet, here the Packers sit. 6-3. They are a game behind the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Minnesota has the tiebreaker. The Lions have the tiebreaker, but they play again. They play again. Yes, those games are in Minnesota, but this is a Packers team built for the Dome. The Lions were supposed to be a team built for the Dome, and Jared Goff couldn't stop throwing to the Houston Texans. The Packers are still right there. They are 6-3, have not played their best, and are still right there in the NFC North and in the NFC. They have put themselves in a position to make those tweaks, to find that rhythm, to find the key alignment of players. We talked about this last week. Just play your best players on defense. Just make sure Evan Williams and Javon Bullard are on the field together. Just make sure Edgerrin Cooper is on the field always on defense, and then figure out beyond that. I think it should be Eric Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper. The Packers don't seem to agree. We'll see if, well, I guess we'll see who's right. We'll see who's right. But the reason that I think it's so useful to frame it this way is, yes, the Packers have to play better. Like, you think about the Lions game, and it's emblematic. Because you go, okay, there are teams when you watch and you go, it doesn't matter. This team does not have the capabilities to play well consistently. They don't have the coaching, or they don't have the players, or they don't have either. The Packers are not that team. We are pretty sure of that at this point. And then you go, well, there are teams that are good, but that have key deficiencies. The Texans, a great example. Really talented team, but they have a fatal flaw. They cannot block for CJ Stroud. Cannot block for him. And he leads the league in sacks taken. That is something where you're just not going to fix that. That's not getting fixed. They don't have the players. They don't have the bodies. The things that the Packers have to fix, some of it is just turnover luck from the quarterback. Some of it is pre-snap penalties, something that really has not been a problem in the Matt LaFleur era. It's drops. And those things tend to, someone's got to lead the league in drops, right? But for as talented as this receiver room is, it's just not something that I expect to continue over the course of the season. We saw last year in the second half, even in the first half, drops were not a huge problem. In the second half, this team take off. Tucker Kraft has really good hands. Jaden Reed has really good hands. He's dropped some balls. Dontavian Wicks, inconsistent hands. We saw that at Virginia. Christian Watson, we don't need to replay the first play of the 2022 season, the first play of his NFL career, potential walk-in touchdown, and he dropped it. But every team is going to have stuff like that. The Lions, I think they had one drop all year coming into this week. One. Those sorts of things are going to even themselves out. The Packers will come back to the mean a little bit. The Lions will come back to the mean a little bit, but they'll come down toward Green Bay, and Green Bay will come up toward Detroit, just because that's how big numbers work. That's just the law of averages. The Packers are capable of executing the vision. They have the players. They don't need new players. They didn't need to go out and get Za'Darius Smith. And we've seen them play at a high level. And wins like the Texans wins like the Cardinals win. Doesn't that suddenly look a lot better given the way we've seen the Cardinals play over the last month, ever since that game? The Packers beat the crap out of the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, they might win the NFC West, for crying out loud. Over the course of the season, though, the Packers, again, they're 6-3, haven't played their best football. They're going to need it. They're going to need it. And one thing they're going to need is their quarterback not to turn the ball over. I expect a 2023-like second half from Jordan Love, and I'll explain why coming up next on Locked On Packers. Our friends at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through the all-day tailgates, the touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like you, the fans who are first in the parking lot and last to leave. We see you. You know what else? Give me a bit of Packers fan fuel this week. Watching Jared Goff throw all those interceptions. Really, I enjoyed it. And then CJ Stroud, a little bit to fit the agenda for me as well. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, no matter the action, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for a big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com and shipped nationwide. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. This is your best and most fun way to win money playing daily fantasy sports. All you have to do is pick more or less than the stats for 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Over 10 million people and billions of dollars handed out on Prize Picks. They already know what all the fun is about. Run your game all season long at Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. So you correctly project 4 stats, more or less, right? You can win 100 times your money. 100. That's not a misprint. 100. 100 times your money, plus withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. So when your picks hit, your money can be out in 15 minutes. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Don't even need to win. Download the app. Locked On NFL gets you $50 instantly when you play that first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. I've taken some heat for some of the ways that I've talked about the Lions game in particular, Packers-Lions. And what I try and do is, you can look at the scoreboard. Anyone can look at a scoreboard or a box score. But what I think is particularly important when you're looking at qualitative and quantitative markers is what are the things that tell me what actually happened, play in, play out, and the things that allow me to project forward. So I can look at a box score and know who won the game, right? That's easy. But how projectable forward is that win? How translatable, how sustainable is that win? So the Packers, for example, they have a couple 4th downs, don't go their way. Meanwhile, the Lions score on 2 of their 4th downs. They get a pick 6, fluky play that a pick turns into interception on any play. And that game seems a lot less close than it really was. And I was saying in the first half, the Packers were outplaying the Lions, but the scoreboard did not reflect that. That can happen. We know that. Anyone that's watched sports for any amount of time knows that that is true. So coming into Sunday night, and I understand, the Lions came back. But coming into Sunday night, Jordan Love and Jared Goff had nearly identical turnover-worthy play rates on the season. Jordan Love, a turnover-worthy play rate of 3.7%. It's a fine number. Jared Goff was at 3.5%. Love has thrown 10 interceptions on the season. Coming into the game, Jared Goff had only thrown 4. Josh Allen, until recently, hadn't thrown any. These turnover-worthy play rates are a better indicator of how someone is taking care of the football than truly just interceptions. Interceptions can be fluky. You think of, I think the screen is a great example, the pick 6. Kirby Joseph, if that's a linebacker, it doesn't get picked. If that's a defensive lineman, it doesn't get picked. And it definitely doesn't get housed if it gets picked. You think of the Vikings game. The one that goes off Luke Musgrave's hands and then Romeo Dobbs' hands into the linebacker's hands or the safety's hands or whoever it was. It doesn't even matter. Those are not turnover-worthy plays, but they end in interceptions. So over the course of the season, you're not going to have all of your turnover-worthy plays become turnovers. And then you're going to have some plays that are not turnover-worthy become turnovers. Over the course of the season and over the course of your career, the numbers are going to more accurately reflect the rate. But in an 8 or 9 game sample, they probably won't. So when we talk about regression, this is exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. And we saw Jared Goff. Regression came in a major way for him. I think the same thing is getting ready to happen with Jordan Love. And it's not just because of how he played in the second half last year. It is not just that he's getting healthy. It is not just how effective this offense was at times this year without him when Matt LaFleur was doing just like, I'm going to cook play calling. It's all of those things. It's the fact that the Packers have had an elite offensive line this season. But Jordan has not been able to be comfortable behind it because he's dealing with this injury. They haven't been able to run the kind of offense they want to run. One with under center play action, under center run game, bootlegs, rollouts, changing the launch point. Jordan scrambling, extending plays. Huge parts of what made this offense so dangerous eliminated. And then also incentivizing Jordan, or at least maybe threatening Jordan in a lot of ways, into some bad throws, bad decisions. If he has his full faculties, he can extend and make a play rather than having to force the ball into a tight window. Or he can merely, rather than worrying about the bodies in front of him because he's not 100% healthy, he can just stand and deliver, feeling a little bit better. You also hope that they're playing in some better circumstances by not getting into these boneheaded pre-snap penalty situations where all of a sudden 3rd and 3 becomes 3rd and 8. Those are the things that they have to avoid, but all of a sudden the offense opens up. I don't think Jordan Love has been playing like a guy who's leading the league in interceptions. I don't think his qualitative play, down to down, says that's who he is. There have been a number of games this year where you go, man, he played really well, but just like 1 or 2 plays where he lost his mind. And, you know, the Cardinals one is a great example. Receiver slips. That's not a turnover-worthy play, but it turns out to be an interception. And then there's a couple of these where, you know, I would say there's very few where he just got fooled. Sometimes defense just makes a great play. But the thing is over the course of the season, how many of those are you going to get? How many, the Jerry and Jones variety where it's an out route, you're throwing it with anticipation, the guy can be open, the guy is usually open, and the defensive back just makes a great play. That happens like twice, maybe 3 times in a season. a lot of these things have been calamitous and they have happened in a short window of time this year. And I think that was true last year. And what we saw in the second half was a regression where his play did not reflect the amount of interceptions that he was throwing. And I think the same thing is true this year. Now, maybe, who knows? Maybe he'll go out and lead the league in interceptions this year. Maybe that'll happen. But I don't think he's become significantly more turnover prone. He has become somewhat more turnover prone. The turnover worthy play rate is higher this year than last year by a meaningful margin. But there are so many factors that I think easily explain this. The injuries are a big one. His own injuries are a big one. But what happened in the second half last year? The receivers started playing better. They cut out some of those boneheaded penalties. And Matt LaFleur locked in on some of the things that he was really comfortable Jordan Love doing with this group of receivers. Once Jordan Love can get healthy, it makes calling this offense so much easier. And I think you're going to see huge dividends paid just by that happening. Just by that happening, because his legs are a weapon. He can use them to escape these turnover-worthy opportunities. No one is taking sacks at a lower rate than Jordan Love and Packers quarterbacks in general this year because they're not getting a lot of pressure. But Jordan is turning some of those pressure opportunities into interceptions. Matt LaFleur doesn't seem at all bothered by it. In fact, after we talked to Lily Zhao last week about this, he was asked again, like right out, it might have even been the same day that episode came out. He was asked about the interceptions and looked so annoyed at the question. So annoyed. And I even texted Lily about it. Like we were laughing about it because it was just like, he does not seem to be as worried as we are about it. But we'll see if that's the right tact. I predict he's going to, I don't know if he's going to throw, 23 touchdowns and just one interception in the second half. That would be pretty cool if he did that, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be, 16, 17 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. That'd be good work. Like if he throws 35 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, pretty similar stat line to what he had last year, that would be good. That would be a good season. And by most of the metrics already, he's like a top 10 quarterback statistically, even with the interceptions, even like EPA per play takes into consideration those things. Now, he's got to get healthy. This defense has to get healthy. And that's a key. We're going to close out a no longer the bye week Locked On Packers. That's next. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages started at just $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with code NFL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at Omaha, OMAHA, steaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's Packers Bears week. What more could you want? The Bears lost to the Patriots. Packers almost touchdown favorites at home, 6.5 points. Going to Chicago. 6.5 point favorites on the road, with a total at 41.5. FanDuel expecting some defense in that one. Right now, new customers can get $5. We got to lock in. It's the bye week. I got to get locked in here. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, your live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. Now for your second listen, go check out Locked On NFL Now with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off the morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. The complaints, the conversations around injuries can often be silly because you hear from fans and they go, well, this game happened without so-and-so. And it's like, okay, every team has injuries. Every team deals with that. So it's not novel to say a team needs to be healthy to be able to win. The Packers don't. They're 6-3, having dealt with injuries. They've won 2.5 games without their star quarterback. They've had to win games without Jaire Alexander, their star cornerback. 2 of the most important positions in football. They've had to win games with their starting edge rushers not producing the way that we're used to seeing them produce. They've had to win games with receivers in and out of the lineup. And they've done it. They've done it. So it's not that for the Packers to win a Super Bowl, they need Jordan Love healthy, first and foremost. But defensively, this is where it's so key because they did not, in the offseason, manage the cornerback position particularly well. Kalen King was supposed to be like the steal of the draft for the Packers, and he can't even get on the field despite the fact that they continue to hemorrhage bodies at the position. But finding Evan Williams, who's on the show later this week, finding Evan Williams, plugging him in next to Xavier McKinney, it just makes such a difference when you can put Javon Bullard in the slot, Keyshawn Nixon on one side, and Jaire Alexander on the other side. And look, everydayers know how I feel about Keyshawn Nixon. He has exceeded my expectations as a boundary corner this year by a comfortable margin. I love Javon Bullard as an overhang defender, and Evan Williams and Bullard together are those 2 guys with Xavier McKinney. That's the future of the NFL, is having multiple guys who can do multiple things, who can play a little bit of everywhere, who can play in the overhang area, who can play in the slot, who can play deep. Anything you need them to do, they can do it. You pair that with the interchangeability of what the pass rush can be with the simulated pressures and the all-out looks and the interesting things Jeff Hafley can get to. Finding Evan Williams, finding Javon Bullard, find Edgerrin Cooper. Well, those things only matter if Jaire Alexander is healthy. And he's not been. Now, it looks like he's going to be, we think. It was not expected to be a long-term injury. The same thing with Evan Williams. We'll get an update later this week on what that's going to look like. But the Packers, their defense, the pieces fit so well when Jaire can play. And he is such a difference maker when he's at his best. That this defense can be good enough, even with the holes at linebacker, to get to a Super Bowl because of some of the holes that Brian Gutekunst was able to plug. And then on offense, it's everything we talked about with Jordan Love and his health. If he is healthy, this offense can be operated the way that Matt LaFleur wants it operated, the way Jordan Love is best operating it. And it is with under center a lot. Doesn't mean all the time, just enough that on 3rd and 1, on 2nd and 3, on 1st and 5, you can get under the center and run anything. And that helps your run game. That helps your play action game. The Packers love to get these play action shots. Well, they're much better getting to these play action shots from under center versus trying to go gun play action and take those shots. It just has a different impact, a different feel to a defense. So, okay, again, it's not novel to say if Jordan Love is healthy and Jared Alexander healthy, that would really help. Yes, that's true. But there are specific ways in which, just like even if they're banged up, it is a significant difference on offense with Jordan Love solely in shotgun versus being able to play under center. And then for the Packers, the fall off after those first two corners on the outside is precipitous. Now, I think Carrington Valentine working himself back into the good graces of the coaches, working himself back into shape. I think that's enough, those three, to get into your dime looks. But then if it's Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine as your starters with Bullard in the slot, now it's getting dicey. And now you're asking Jeff Hafley to do a lot more. You're asking your safeties to do a lot more. And while I think that they are capable players, Evan Williams is a rookie. Javon Bullard is a rookie. Keyshawn Nixon really playing out of position. So this team, they're getting healthy coming out of the bye week. This is your stretch run. Keep your core guys. It's those two players. They can withstand injuries anywhere else. Those two spots, if those guys stay healthy, the Packers can win the Super Bowl. All right, back tomorrow, Lily Zhao for a Zhao You Doin', then Evan Williams on Wednesday. Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears is here on Thursday. So much more as we get you set for Packers Bears out of the bye week. Follow me on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky now. Go look me up if you're a Blue Sky person. I'm on there. I'm going to be posting on there more. So go check it out. I know some people are making a migration over to Blue Sky. So we're over there. Locked On Packers, wherever you find social medias, we're there as well. And then, of course, wherever you can find podcasts, subscribe to the show. Same thing on YouTube so you can stay locked on Packers.